It says connecting to cloud server. Is it recording now?
Now it says record.
Oh, sweet. I guess I had to do it again. Saving the day. All right. It's also angled too, which is kind of fun. So if you want to draw another side version, you know, the chef, the backyard chef, looks like he may have cut the zucchinis at a little bit of an angle. So you could get kind of sassy with that. I'm just drawing these lines because the zucchini itself, the whole long zucchini, it does have, you know, stiff ridges that run from end to end. And I'm just trying to, you know, sharpen up a little bit of our observation before we start getting into here. Now I'm going to put if you look at what should I do here? If you have a cube that's in perspective, you know, if you have like a square plane, you guys can see that, right? This is a square plane. You go from corner to corner. You'll notice that the center of that plane is, you know, further back. So there's more real estate in the front than there is in the back. And then if you think of that concept, and then make that cube into an ellipse, like we've got here for our zucchini, then the barbecue skewer is in the center. That center is just further back, and you can see it play out right here. So we know that that skewer is in the middle of the zucchini. But where exactly is it? You can just estimate it, but in your mind, you know that the edge of that is going to be further back. And that the whole skewer itself is in fact a cylinder, even though it's like hard to see it. The cylinder is going to come out the bottom. You can use bracelet lines to kind of suggest the roundness of it. And I think when there's more shadows, or, you know, there's also, there's even a grain. I mean, this is a HD photo, which is fantastic. There's all kinds of oils on it and pepper seasoning, but you can also see the grain of the wood. And the grain of the wood runs, you know, lengthwise too. Okay, this one was the easiest one to sculpt. It was the edge of the pepper. So let's draw the front edge. And then if you imagine a pepper up here, it's almost like an apple. It's like a wiggly, distorted apple. They have ridges like this. So if you were to take a chunk out of it, like here, that chunk is going to be slightly curved. So you just like cut out a square from the side, and it's going to have an arc to it. So it's not a flat. And that's so this shape that I just truncated from the side of this, you know, pepper. I love peppers. It's a curving one. So the skin I'm suggesting is on the outside. So the top plane that we're seeing here, that's the curve of this shiny skin on the outside versus the juicy, textured, matte skin on the inside. Not really seeing any of that. And then we want our skewer to match up towards the back there. We're almost seeing in profile. All right, we'll get to this next level. Yeah, the mushroom that you can see up top here, you know, it has a cylindrical, you know, root, I guess. Is that what you would call it? Like the stem is a cylinder. Oh man, I have my inferior table easel stand. Oh God, now it's upside down. There. It's driving me nuts. All right, so if you look at the mushroom from the side, it's going to be a semicircle. I mean, that's sorry, guys. All right, so the mushroom cap is going to be a semicircle, and then there's going to be a rectangular stem that comes out of it. So that's the 2D. If we move it up, make it 3D, we're going to see the underside of the mushroom, and they're going to see the cylindrical nature of the stem. You know, there's usually these little fins underneath that kind of curl under. All right, now this one is sliced completely in half. So, and then it's seen, you know, so what we're seeing is the top of the mushroom sliced, and then you get a half of a cylinder on the stem of the mushroom. And that's up here. So let me go from 2D to 3D to three-dimensionally sliced. I guess the middle, you know, you can kind of suggest this middle of the mushroom from the top view, and then you imagine that it would kind of cylindrically or, you know, radiate out from that point. We got a cylinder, we got a cube, and we got a mushroom. What's the next one? This is another two-dimensional pepper. Use a rectangle. Ooh, I'll use a curved rectangle.
No.
And then the cherry tomato, we're going to call it a sphere. Start off with a circle, add a conical tip. It's almost like a teardrop shape. And then you can see where that was attached to the stem, where that breaks off. The sphere. See where the stem was added, and then the conical side. That one's nice and shiny. You know how you make the make a bubble look shiny? You put that little highlight on the corner. I love that.
No.
All right, that's just crank out these last three. I love this view of this mushroom. We get the circular wide side that we'll call that the outer loop.
Yeah.
Then we'll do the inner loop. We get this section where the fins happen underneath. And then we have the outer loop of the stem, the short stem, and then you get the bottom of the stem. And that's the part that kind of rots that you always have to slice off. Well, not everyone slices them off. I slice them off. Kristen will just get mushrooms from the supermarket and just like throw them in. I'm like, are you insane? Wash them and cut the ends off. Ooh, Ooh, look at that. There's a center to that as well. Almost like the tree trunk. I'm trying to show the curving, almost donut nature of the cap of the mushroom from this angle. I'm really trying to sculpt with my pencil. That's all. I'm showing more of the fin area than I probably need to, and my stem is a little bit thinner. It's okay. I feel like it looks like a mushroom. This zucchini, the next one, is cropped slightly so we can show the exposed face, the inner structure of that zucchini. This is the exact opposite of the one that we started with. So we're seeing the top here, and from this angle, we can consider it the bottom. And this zucchini looks a little bit more mangled. Maybe it's over. I mean, it's because it's smaller. Maybe because it was near like a harsher flame. Who knows? But it's like a little bit crispy. Very, very herb covered. And we get to see some of that skewer. We missed the skewer where the pieces got really tight. That's kind of fun. It's nice to see, like, as far as a variation in a sketch goes, a long part of the skewer, slightly shorter, teeny, non-existent, very subtle from the zucchini into the last cherry tomato. Look at it. I just love that you can zoom in like this. This is new from that. The yellow zucchini looks like an octagon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, it's a stop sign. That makes it great. All right, so we'll show the skewer entering in. It's not even close to the middle. It's like lower left-hand section, but who cares? We got an octagon. Is this an octahedron? I don't know what this would be, other than a good time. So you can see the front face, and I guess there are some seeds in here, but it's pretty tender, fleshy. And then you can build those planes off the side. So good. That's a big, thick chunk. Then it looks like it's capped off with another pepper. The pepper is a red pepper. Side, tender inside, matte, fleshy outside, transition, and then skin on the outside that we don't really see. I think it would be more fun, actually, since we know that the skewers are pointy. We can do a pointed skewer tip. I feel like that ties it all together. I'm really sorry about my. It keeps leaning. That's better. Oh, good gracious, yes. Okay, so Stacy, this is the 2-minute warning.
Thank you.
Man, I would have liked to have done those chunks of meat. That's okay.
So different, but they remind me in a way of the crystals, the planes of the crystals.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I don't really do color. This could be fun in color.
Oops. Where'd you go?
Yep, Trevor's gone.
That was scary.
Yeah, his screen is frozen on my end.
Am I back? Am I back in the game?
Now.
You are here.
Yeah, that's actually the first time that's ever I mean, I just got kicked out. I just got booted. I have no idea why. I don't know why that happened. It's strange.
This,
There's been other reasons that have been, verified and justified. I have no idea what that was.
There we go.
I think all I said was, I wish I could draw that meat, and then it like shut down. I was like,
yeah.
Okay, it's
Yeah.
a sign.
how did I get
It's a
canceled for
sign.
barbecue?
Don't draw
It's
the
the-
meat.
It's those naked vegetables.
Yep.
Seriously, did you guys hear me say it would be a 2-minute warning?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I'm just gonna do some fun shading. Zucchini. It's tough to make things look with this medium, with just pencil, it'd be hard. I mean, with paint, this would be so delicious to do with oil paint, because
Yeah.
oil paint is kind of shiny and a little bit messy, and you could, it just they're beautiful colors, the red and the greens and the yellows, the neutral browns, and then you could add specks and flakes that look like pepper. It's harder to make all that translate, I think, with pencil, especially the wet, like the greasiness, the greasy moisture of the veggies. That's tough to do in this, but it's fun to observe. Maybe it's some of the char. Maybe that would make more sense. But like the variations between the zucchinis, are so based on color. From the green to the yellow. Mushrooms are great. Mushrooms are just nice forms. I'd say that would probably be the hardest of the forms that we did on this warm up. And there's not really much, light and shade to speak of. I guess if you look underneath the ones that are close together, I guess the only one that really has shadow is this pepper on top of the mushroom. Looks like the underside of this green zucchini is darker. I haven't done any blending. I have my tortillion. That might be helpful too. Where you have like more of a textured skin with the zucchini and with at least the green zucchini and the mushrooms, whereas you kind of got a smoother skin finish with the peppers. I guess I'm definitely gonna need the tortillion for the next one. Have you guys thought about whether you want to do the landscape or the figures?
I like them both.
Yeah, I mean we can just do both.
The figures are interesting.
Yeah.
All right, let's do the figure. We'll start off with I don't know the actual allegory, but I think it's Bacchus falls in love with, I think it's one of the daughters that helped get the who fell in love with the Greek guy who went and killed the Minotaur and then forgot to put the flag back, and then his father killed himself, and he was like the rightful king, even though I can't remember the story. Anyway, she was a beauty, and Bacchus falls in love with her. Well, we'll look up the story. Cupid's in here. She's got a little entourage. Bacchus has got his entourage, and everybody's naked. It's 10:22. I guess we'll go to 10:25. Then we really will stop it. I just introduced this tortillion, and now I'm having a little more fun than I anticipated. Yeah, maybe that's how you get a variation on here. You go from like a really dark object, like really allow the mushrooms to go, grow dark, and then the pepper can go mid-tone, and then maybe the zucchini goes really light. I don't know, because if you don't have color variation, how you want your drawing to work and have a competent value variation, have your eye have like almost like a skipping stone, dark to light, dark to light, textured to smooth, textured to smooth, harsh straight edge planes to soft curvilinear forms. There's still a lot, there's plenty to work with even without color. Straight to curve, straight to curve. And then even within the form themselves, you have the straight edge of the mushroom, straight edge of the sides with the curved cylinder and the curved dome shape of the mushroom. Whatever code you use to indicate that the skewer is made of wood, not metal. All right, this is not the worst thing we've ever drawn. Now I'm going to take liberties with the bottom and try to emphasize maybe a suggestion of a dark underpinning. Make it seem like there's light coming from up above. Ooh, I even shaded the underside of the skewer. I just chose a light source. It doesn't make it correct. And you want these objects, on the skewers just to be distinctly separate. So as I darkened this, even though this is a lighter piece of zucchini, I darkened the edge, and then I can lighten the edge. And so now I can further separate that tomato from that zucchini just through the contrast of the two objects. And then I can do the same thing with the before. I can lighten the top of the zucchini and then darken the tomato. The tomato becomes dark up against the light of the zucchini at the bottom, and then it becomes light against the dark up above. It's a nice counter change of light to dark, light to dark. And you could play that game all the way down. Even with the zucchini, even though the zucchini, the green zucchini is darker, I'm breaking from what I'm observing to let the lightness of the mushroom come in front of the darkness of the zucchini. And you could play it the other way, I suppose. But as long as it's a decision, as long as it's you're observing it, seeing it, and deciding to make it for a reason. Oh, I love how these two just kiss. That's nice. We have none of these kiss. What I'm talking about is that this mushroom is in front of that pepper. This tomato is in front of that mushroom. This mushroom is in front of that zucchini. There's a long separation between the zucchini and the pepper, and then this pepper above the mushroom, and then that tomato. They just they meet, and one's not in front of the other. They just kiss. And I like that little moment in my drawing, and it's even different. I mean, in observing it, I would say that the pepper, maybe not. I guess I see a little skewer in between them too. That's cool. That's like the smallest distance. See how you can see a little bit of the skewer between that pepper and tomato? Oh, Grace, I hope I'm living up to making these skewers interesting. All right, it's 27. That's it. We're done. We're
Okay.
done. Here he is, the man himself. This guy's caused more problems in history, I tell you. I guess we should look at the whole thing first. Zoom out a little. I can't. Oh, she's a little. Let me dim this light a little. Oh, so yeah, this is going to be fantastic. So we're going to go, the way that I think he designed it was in groupings. And because of the nature of my pencil, it's kind of like the way we did the Millet with the baby, the baby, running towards the father. So this, we're going to do Bacchus first. He's the dominant vertical in the design. And he's kind of like off to the side, but he's sectioning off the realms. He's the dominant vertical, but he's also part of the frame of our two, reclining women that are on kind of like a low bench. So they're dead center in the composition. They encapsulate a secondary vertical, their relationship. She's sitting up, but then she's the dominant horizontal. So the connection between these two women is the center of the picture. And then they meet the bench. So her leg and thigh is going to be the dominant horizontal. So that's the middle of the picture. Then the top of their heads are kind of framed off by this, I think it's like a wine glass, a carafe that Bacchus is holding. And his hand links up this hand on the other side and the top of her head. So can you see that the corner of the cherub down here, it's not a cherub, it's Cupid. So Cupid is the right side of a frame for these two women that are in the center of the picture. So Bacchus himself, his dominant vertical from his chest down the front of his thigh, down to his feet, that's the left-hand side of the box. And then you come across his feet along the bottom of the cushion where she's sitting. You go through Cupid's feet and then up this standing figure, the woman who's playing the flute. I assume it's a woman. It could be a young man. I'm not sure. Well, we can figure that out. These are all sketches, mock-ups for larger compositions. So the two ladies are inside of this frame. And he is our dominant vertical. But you could really make a case for the center of the picture and Ariadne. I guess it's Ariadne. Ariadne. Ariadne.
Yeah, Ariadne.
Ariadne. Yeah. So that's you can make a case because even though it's not the longest vertical, it is the central vertical. So, and she's the main object of the picture. Anyway, his head is tilted down, looking directly at her. He's like kind of struck. I love his there's a little goat boy, a little pan, a little fawn next to him here, and then there's another guy who's his wine bearer is on this side, maybe even holding him up a little bit. But it's a very classical figure, and really a very handsome figure as well. So this little cluster, so he's number one, the wine bearer is number two, and then the pan is number 3 on this left side cluster. And, you know, there's the smaller section of the figures on the right. So you've got Cupid, who's kind of like the main event on the right, and then Cupid's flanked by, you know, this little band of musicians, this two-person, two-man band, I guess. There's the flutist here who's leaning kind of merrily on this tree stump. And then I don't know what this woman is, this other figure's doing in the back. But there's a trio of figures on the right, a trio of figures on the left, and then Ariadne and her, you know, maiden on the left. So I guess this is a tree back here. So it looks like there's some kind of you know, tied fabric from tree to tree, you know, further kind of making a backdrop for these women. And I think in a sense, kind of creating a little environment that they're inhabiting that he's kind of imposing on, I think. You know, I mean, he's a god, he can kind of do whatever he wants, but he's kind of entering into this little intimate space that is, you know, set up in the woods. And it would be nice to actually, I don't know, I wonder if it's in Metamorphoses. I have that text downstairs. So now there's half of me wants to do Ariadne first, but I think it'll be better for me and the Zoom to go from left to right, you know, to start with the Bacchus and do this trio. We'll do this trio, and then we'll be able to do this, the duo, the pair in the middle, and then we'll finish off with the trio on the right. There's not much of a background, and it's very, you know, if there is any background, it's more like staged. Whereas the other photo of the trees, you know, the forest scene, that is a, you know, it is in fact like a landscape. That's the purpose of it. So this one is the purpose of this is a figure composition to tell a story, a narrative, whereas the other one is less of a narrative and more of an environment, a scene, and more of a stage set. This is the play. The other picture is the stage set. All right, so let's go, and I will just speak, you know, kind of, you know, softly, consistently, and if I'm going too fast at any point, just please like stop me. I drew this, I've drawn this, and it's really good, and hopefully we get a deeper appreciation for Poussin and his kind of shorthand ways of representing figures, and just kind of the elegance and the character to each one of these you know, players on the stage. All right, so unfortunately, I'm gonna have to crop the hand a little bit. So we'll be able to add this later, but the main relationship I'm looking for is the dominant vertical, this center line that runs through kind of the side of the torso of our Bacchus, and then the figure to the left. Now his hand is stretched out, holding this carafe, and there's this little pan who's next to him. We will draw this the third figure. So there's primary, secondary, and tertiary. So this is the tertiary figure, and just because of the paper, I have to you know, I'm gonna have to cover this guy up. So no offense to Pan. Oh man, thank you all for doing this, by the way. I love Poussin, and I love figures, and I love, you know, sketching with you all. So let's start just like the barbecue skewer. Let's start with a center line and move my thing. Okay, so I'm gonna try and make sure that I have enough room for the wine bearer on the left, and I can fit it on the screen. So when you do figures from life, you want to get, you know, a loose understanding of where the top of the figure is and then where the bottom of the figure is. And by establishing the center line, already you're linking the head to toe. Now it's hard as an artist to get the hang of seeing the head and then also seeing the toes, at the same time, and then establishing the relationship. So the Bacchus's head is tilted forward a little bit, so there is like an angle to the head, which I love, and he describes so much of the form by shading down the figure, and we'll get to do that. So we're definitely going to get to do that, but we've got to sketch what's a little bit below the surface first, and I'll show you what I mean. So there's the crown of the head. He's actually wearing some kind of crown or hat. It looks like a little beanie, a little ball on the top, which is kind of cute. That's going to be the center, and then I'm going to actually put a little tick in my book, and that center line is going to run through the pit of the neck, which he's aware of. So the pit of the neck is also the center, and it's going to go through this hip bone. That's the ASIS, I guess, anterior superior iliac spine. It's the front of the hip, and then it runs right through the middle of that thigh, and then it's going to go through the stand leg. Now, the stand leg is the right side leg. So there's this S curve that exists. There's an S curve that exists within the entire figure, that runs up through the front, from the pit of the neck through the middle of the chest down to the symphysis pubis and then through the front of the shin. There's a large S curve, which we're going to get to put in, patience. We'll get to insert that in there, but then there's a smaller S curve that is kind of born from the shadow of the smaller leg. So there's a larger S curve of the whole figure and a smaller S curve of that leg. Now, he doesn't even draw the foot because it is a sketch, and think about how he just puts a horizontal line that represents the foot. In his mind, that's it. So his first move, was getting the top of the head where this beanie was, running a center line down, and that's the base of the foot where Bacchus is standing. So let's do you can see that he knows that the angle of the head is at a slight diagonal, and that's the middle of the head. So if we can put that angle in, then you can get the angle of the face, the angle of the back of the head, and I'm going to claim that, at least at the moment, that it's going to be a rectangle. We'll round it off, but we're going to use the brush stroke that he used to tone the whole front of the face. That angle is going to give us the axis of the head. If it helps, even you can do this little elbow that's at the chin, and he finds that useful as well. Pit of the neck, we're going to go from that corner of the chin, and we're going to drop down, and this is where it starts to get into anatomy. So we've got the angle of the shoulders. His right wrist is high up on his love handle. He's limp wristed because he's been drinking, and he's a little sassy. He's contrapposto, meaning that all of the weight is in the stand leg, and his left leg is at rest and it's kicked back. That is, as classical of a pose as you can get. The left arm is lower, meaning the left shoulder over here. The right shoulder, left side shoulder is higher because of its orientation on his hip. And then the right shoulder is lower because he's holding, let me move this out. He's holding onto the wine carafe. And the fawn is holding up his hand. So whether it's a real being or a spirit being, he needs the support because he's swaying. All right, so this arm comes out. I'm going to use a smaller rectangle. He does indicate the back of the neck here. So there's a little line for the front of the neck, a little line for the back of the neck, and then I'm going to go full-blown shoulder deltoid oval. So this is the shoulder muscle is a big oval. So cool. So that's an oval, and then we'll go from that oval is going to be attached to almost like a popcorn box shape, which is going to the front of the biceps, and then it's going to come back into the elbow. And for one time, the L is actually of the elbow. The L is going in the right direction. So we'll go from, and we might as well just make the other rectangle in that wrist here. So I've gotten perhaps slightly ahead of myself, but I think it's okay. Usually I like to establish the torso, the rib cage, and then put the arms on that. But the rib cage is really kind of nondescript here. So we're going to go from the pit of the neck, and we're going to establish this rib cage by finding the angle of the sternum. And it gives us a little tick here, angle of the sternum, and then the front of the belly. And then let's just do this. Let's just do this deed, which I may regret later, but when you're taught to draw rib cages, they're ovals, and I still, I'm just a sucker for an oval rib cage for a couple different reasons. The ribs do conform to that, but then they also help give you the arc of the ribs, which is the acostal arch. And then we've got the oval of the rib cage. You know how if you ever go to get British fare, they have soldiers where there's a hard-boiled egg inside of a little hard-boiled egg stand. Think about the rib cage and the transition from the rib cage into the pelvis. The rib cage is the egg, and then the love handles, it's like what holds it going into the pelvis. So I'm going to draw the side of the love handles here, and then the front of the belly here, and that is the little a rectangular stand. I guess it's not really rectangular; it'd have to be conical, but still, that's what houses our rib cage. So he doesn't give us a whole lot, but we know that the sternum happens, and then you get a pectoral on the left, and then a pectoral on the right. So you got the breast muscle, the pecs are the muscle of the pecs are above the acostal arch. And then if you study Michelangelo, if you look at all of his figures, and if you study everybody, this freaked me out, honestly, to begin with, because men have nipples, of course, but they also have fat deposits in breasts. So they have stronger pectorals, which always dominate. That's what you see, the big mass rectangles of the pectoral muscles. And then near the nipple, there's a small collection of fat deposits. And if you look at Michelangelo's, they're just clear as anything. You look at classical figures, they're just clear as anything. So to make a male's breast, pecs look normal, you add a little teeny swelling, almost like a miniature breast, and then the nipple on top of that. It sounds weird, but it's just the way to do it. And he actually does it very, very subtly with when he goes into the tone. All right. So we've got the rib cage, which is an oval. Then we've got the almost like the girdle that holds that rib cage in place of the muscles of the abdomen and the love handles, which I'm turning into a block. And then those are attaching to the pelvis. Now the pelvis can be seen. I like to think about it like almost like a mini skirt, but it's more of a mini skirt in women because it gets really wide at the hips, where men's rib cages are typically more blocky. So we'll build that side of the hips, front of the hips, and then he gives us this triangle, which is from hip bone to the symphysis pubis, which is the base middle of the base middle of the pelvis. So we're stacking all these forms, and this is going to become very clear when we add the shading, because we're basically going to be shading the front of the body, but we're shading independently the various forms that we've stacked. All right, so here, this is where we can get a feeling of the larger flow. So I'm going to go from the pit of the neck, and I'm going to run this little arc right down through the stand leg here. And that's going to give us the front of the leg. So the symphysis pubis all the way down to the stand leg. And then we can drew this. Remember I made that smaller one? It's going to be that smaller one that runs through basically the shadow. You can see how the shadow looks a little broken up here. It's because he's stacked all the different forms of the leg, just like the barbecue skewer. So if you hold tight on here, you can actually see him formulating the separate skewered forms heading down that leg, and then he shades them accordingly. All right, so the hip back here, this is the gluteus medius at the top, and it turns into gluteus maximus as it cuts under. And then we're going to stack these blocks. So where the thigh attaches to the hips, we get our first largest, I would say the largest individual form of the leg. And I'd say it's wider towards the body, towards the hips, and gets narrower. Then we're going to get this little transition into the knee block. And the knee block is the kind of the most fundamental cube, but it's also a change of direction. So the S curve starts to where it goes I guess it swells to the right above the knee, and it swells to the left below the knee. And that knee block is the point of that transition. So we've got the thick block where it attaches to the pelvis. Then we've got this the knee block where you get the middle of the leg, and then we're going to get a connector, the connection between those two.
It's so stylized, because so elongated. It's, it's not like he was trying to exactly create a figure from real life.
Yeah, he's a heroic figure. So
Yeah.
heroic figures exist in real life. They're usually 8 heads tall, and they're just really like handsomely proportioned men. There's a guy who was my sculpture teacher named Lee Dunsmore, went to Calvert Hall. His mom still teaches sculpture at Zoll. And, he was like 6'4", 6'5", something like that. And, had this exact same proportion. And it literally is a head count. Most humans, if you take their head and, count into the body, it's somewhere between 6 and 7.5. And then there's 8-headed. And then when there's not really people that are beyond 8 heads tall, they don't really exist except for in stylized portions that you were saying, Stephanie, like mannerism, or in fashion sketches, fashion drawing. So I know, just because I've drawn a million figures, the top of the calf muscle is rounder, and then it's going to kind of cone into the ankle, and he doesn't really give us much. He gives us a really nice ankle on the resting leg, but the stand leg isn't really there. So I'm going to use a triangle for that stand leg. Man, so I don't know if you can see this, but I had my pelvis go straight across, and it can't be that. It has to angle lower. So and this is the rib cage, even though it's bones, it is a little bit flexible. The pelvis is also technically flexible, but it's better to think about them as solid masses, and the space between the ribs and the pelvis, that's where all the flexibility is. And you can just imagine when if you do like stretches to the left, the whole right side of your body expands, and then the left side, one side stretches and the other side condenses. And in this particular figure, the condensing, if it were to happen, would be on this left side. And then because of the angle of the pelvis angling down, it's going to stretch the right side. All right, so then we've got hip to knee, and the knees are, he doesn't really indicate it, but the middle of the knee block, you can put a kneecap. That's a very helpful landmark. And I think he indicates the kneecap by drawing this little dark note at that knee. That is the shadow underneath the round part of the kneecap. So I should have, when I drew this kneecap, I should have drawn an oval and then did a little indication of the underside of the shadow of that oval. And that's what that mark is. So I'm looking at the base of that kneecap for where in relationship to where the knee bends. Usually it would be a little bit lower, but it looks like it's pretty even across. So we'll put that there, and then we'll go from the knee down into the ankle, the front of the shin, and then the front of the bridge of the foot, and then the toe. So the back of the leg is really small, almost a mistake. But let's just assume he's right. When you're dealing with masters like this, you should assume that they're right. And then after you've studied it and studied it and studied it, then you can maybe say that he was a little light on that ankle. But he's about to indicate the front of the shin, and he makes the leg thicker by shading that. So I'm using a thin line, and then he's going to go back in and make that line thicker as it transitions to the top of the foot. There's a part where the foot's in contact with the ground. It's always a nice thing to indicate that contact point of foot to ground, and there's usually a shadow that happens. So we see the front of the knee and the front of the shin leading into the transition of the ankle into the top of the foot and then into the toe. That's the front. The back, we're going to get the curvy moment of the back of the calf muscle. And at the Achilles heel, it almost concaves in, but he keeps it straight. The Achilles heel technically is a tendon that is straight and cylindrical, and then turns the corner at the heel. And he doesn't give us a whole lot for the bottom of the foot, but we know that there's an arch in the bottom, and he knows that there's an arch too. He might have made that a little bit. He's sketching this fast. He's having visions. That's the other thing you have to know. These are not observational. He knows the figure. He is seeing a vision in his mind's eye. He's read the story. He's seeing the god coming into his consciousness, and he has solutions for sketching figures and has a flash in his head, and he's got to get it down. Then you can have models come in, and you can further refine. These are the first indications of inspiration. I think we talked about that with with looking at the sketch of Dr. Seuss as well. You can tell the caliber of the artist is a little different here. Dr. Seuss's sketches versus Poussin's sketches. Well, Poussin didn't have to live through the 20th century, so we'll go easy on the doctor. All right. I love this right now because we've gotten from head to toe. We should go from elbow to wrist. We'll show the little curve of the wrist. Should be a little bit angled in, but he gives us the pad of the hand. So what we're seeing here is the silhouette of the pad of the hand leading into the pinky, which I think is just so interesting, because the wrist turns over and the pad, the wrist condenses, actually at the inner part of the wrist, because his wrist is turned over. And then you get the pad of from wrist to the knuckle. And then he has this little, almost like a reverse curve of that pinky. It's like maybe you're sipping your tea or your wine, you get that, your pinky extension. Kids used to get made fun of that. Kids in my generation would be made fun of for that. But he's just drinking. I guess it's what happens when you get a little tipsy. Let's do this. Let's start to detail this a little bit. And so we're gonna quote draw the drawing now. We're gonna go back up into the face, and I'm gonna show the details of what's going on with Bacchus's crown, And then we're gonna, continue to go cascading down from head to toe, erasing lines that we don't need, and then toning the forms, as necessary. So there's only 3 sets of marks in the whole figure. So there's like the lines, those are the silhouette edges. Then there's the mid-tone, which is, believe it or not, an ink brush. And we are going to use the equivalent of our ink brush by just having a loaded tortillon. So we can like gently add these, very smooth, non textured tones. So we're gonna use our tortillon to describe the massing of the shadow side. And then there's what I call, whenever we're at the end, when you have to punch your darks, you need moments of where there's like the deepest shadows, and he is including them underneath the gluteus maximus, the front at the symphysis pubis, the contact point of the wrist and the body, the deepest part of the shadow in the armpit. I would say the whole silhouetted edge of the Bacchus up against the fawn requires even though it's the shadow side of Bacchus, he is a light figure up against a dark background. So when I'm looking at this leg, this dark line for the front of the leg, that's actually the fawn. He's actually blending. You can actually see it here. The fawn's leg is behind this knee, and then the fawn's body is darker, helping the Bacchus be a light figure up against the dark ground, even though he's lit from the left side. Nice.
Oh, excuse me.
No, you're fine. All right, let's go for it. At the pit of the neck, we're going to go back up into the chin. It looks like I have to drop my chin a little bit. I'm going to curve the front of the face. I'm a little, I wouldn't call it annoyed, but I would like to see a nose. Because we have a chin that overlaps the neck, and then it looks like we have a suggestion of the underside of the brow ridge. Other moments, I don't know if this is hair or sternocleidomastoid, but we definitely have an angle that helps lead us into the curve where the headband meets the hairline. And then we have a little swell of hair, perhaps, could be a head, not really sure. And my character has a little too much face. Drop that down a little bit. I'll put that little circle for the beanie at the top of the head. There's not a whole lot to go on,
Oh.
There just isn't. So we got eyes, chin, side of the face, forehead. There's a little bit of a forehead back there. Not much of an ear. There's a little bit of a mullet back there. The deltoid really is described nicely. The whole silhouette of the arm. We got a nice rounded curve, and then that rounded curve transitions into a long, elegant L. We don't have to change much about that arm. I'm gonna erase the edge of the pectoral. I'm gonna erase the front of the chest, and then I'm gonna erase the really kind of like the light mass. I think a lot of the front of the leg, I'll be able to blend the marks that are there. I almost like use the tone that I did to build the forms, but I do need to erase the construction lines down the light side of the leg. So this is where it can be a little scary because we rely on those lines to tell us. We have to keep keep a lot of this in our mind's eye. All right, toning the front of the face, toning the front of the neck, transitioning into the top of the pectoralis major, the bottom of the pectorals, the underplane. Then that leads into the round part of the costal arch, down into his belly, you know, kind of where the top of the six pack would be. And we're getting the front of the pelvis. That angle is a little bit different for the hip. And then I get the tone for the front of the thigh, the transition into the knee block, the knee block itself,
No,
and then the shin, and then into the
no. Toy.
The other shadows that are happening on the front of the arm. So I've got my little tone here. I'm going to shade the front of the deltoid, shade the front of the biceps. And then I think he's trying to show that that elbow is kicked out. So then as the forearm enters into the body, gets closer to the body, it turns into shadow. And it looks like this elbow arm is casting a shadow onto the inner part of the rib cage. So that's why I'm shading there. The back of the leg, the front of the leg needs to be pushed back. So I'm going to shade the front of the thigh on the left leg, and then I'm going to tone
No.
down the darkness and contrast of the back leg will go back when I shade that. So that this receding in space is as it should. So where some of my lines were lost in this operation, I might come back in and reinforce them. So there's, and I'm going to clean it up a little bit. So I get the deltoid and then a little wrinkle at the armpit. And I get the biceps transitioning in. I get the inner part of the rib cage. That's kind of nice. A dark moment happening at the wrist. Gluteus medius, gluteus maximus. My line is really kind of, you know, blends together, which is okay. I mean, he's using pen, we're using pencil. I can soften some of the edges. I didn't mean to erase that, but I meant to tone it. And then I will give a little bit of a stronger indication of the separation of the front leg from the back leg. Do that with line. And then enough. Let's just hold off on the fawn. I think it'd be safer to drill in the be safer to drill home the wine bearer, and the wine bearer is like fantastic, and we're gonna get to see him in relationship to Bacchus, who even though he is the dominant vertical, he's still swaying a little bit. And the wine bearer is like, I think like really pulling him back. Actually, he might actually be even like, "Whoa, down boy." Well, let's see how he's doing. How's everybody's sketch going?
Okay.
Is it all right?
Yeah.
Good.
Good.
I keep having to expand the frame because I realize,
It just keeps getting taller and taller.
yeah, and wider and wider.
We didn't indicate the belly button, but you know, the belly button would be this top plane right here. Rib cage. Yes. Should I quit while I was ahead? That's all right. Might be a little too far to the left, but it just makes his belly feel like he's turned even more towards us. All right, so here's the drawing. Honestly, like drawing your own individual figure, Steph, you have the flexibility to make him big, make him wide,
Yeah.
in context to himself. He's relative to himself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we want the narrative to stand, his little wine bearer, the boy who's next to him is shorter or smaller man, whatever it is. I feel like it's a younger guy, definitely not as large. So how are you going to get this figure to be smaller? Well, we have to develop a relationship between these two in terms of their scale. So the top of this boy's head lines up with the chin of our Bacchus. So I'm going to run this horizontal over. The other curious thing is where he is to the left. So he's the wine bear is actually closer to us. So he's behind Bacchus, and then closer to us. Looks like, and I think it was even a little bit confusing in Poussin's vision whether what was going on with these 2 feet. I think that the boy's left leg technically should be in front of Bacchus, but I think he pulls Bacchus's heel in between the 2 feet, of our boy. So the boy's movement is going to be is grabbing the inner arm. So that armpit was a little bit confusing. I'm like, what the hell is going on there? It's actually the boy's hand who's like grabbing the underside of his biceps in the armpit and is pulling him back. And you can tell it's pulling him back because of the shift in the weight of this figure. So Bacchus is on a vertical element. All of the skewers that are going to line up the forms of our boy are going to be on this arc. It's almost like like a compass swing. So if all this, we know where the boy's stand leg is going to be, which is right underneath Bacchus's heel. Then we're going to spring forth this arc. We know where the top of the boy's head is here. So, and we're going to spring the edge of the arc from the stand leg right up the side of his body, up into right close, honestly, really close to the elbow of Bacchus. So it's going to swing up this way. His shoulders go side to side, and then we got it. We're kind of starting with an abstraction. So just like the tick at the top where the boy's head is going to be, and then the where his foot is going to be, we're linking up head to toe with this arc. And I'm just trying to follow landmarks that I see along that arc. So I see the front of the shin, I see the front of the thigh. It goes through, it looks like some kind of like fanny pack or whatever, and then the front of the rib cage, and then through the front of the neck. So that arc really gives us a lot of information. And then we've got to start with a head, so I'm going to put that oval in there, and then the shoulders, they're almost side to side, but it would make sense that Poussin would vary the tilt. And because the boy is going back, yes, he's holding on to the weight of the wine carafe, but he's also pulling Bacchus. So like the shoulders are being pulled in 2 different directions. He's pulling his boss, but he's also carrying the wine thing. So I think that kind of levels out the shoulders. I'm not really sure. Ooh, is that a belly? All right, so we've got the angle of the shoulders. I'm going to kick the shoulder to elbow down. Unfortunately, it goes off screen. I'm going to do the shoulder to elbow on the left side. I'm seeing the elbows are really close together, and I can even put some fingers in here. Just put a little tic tac, just a little indication of it. know how I like to get the oval of the rib cage, transitioning into where the pelvis is, which is going to be straight across. Rib cage, love handles, pelvis. So it's actually happening. Now I need to get the that's so interesting. 'Cause this leg, I'm trying to get from the pelvis here. I'm trying to get the
Bacchus,
leg.
Poussin.
Nice. So I'm gonna get the left leg, almost a vertical, but it angles in. So the leg coming off of this thigh. Then we'll get the knee block, which should be our target. And the knee block, I'm trying to compare the knees to the Bacchus. So knee to knee, it's lower. So my knee on the Bacchus is higher. The knee to the boy is lower. And then we're gonna do the arc from that knee down into the ankle. And he just gives us a little circle. Look at that. So he barely gives a foot indication, but he does give us a line that links up the knee to the ankle. And then the back of that. That's awesome. The boy is so look at the relationship between the tall figure and the short figure. The short figure is off balance, leaning, arching to the left, but also look at the way that the legs are reversed. So the stand leg is the left leg in the boy here, and the stand leg is the left leg. So the legs are like flipped, which gives us a nice counter change. So even though they're two separate people, the legs are almost like almost like the same person in two separate steps. You know, if say they were the same person, this is frame one, and then a half a second later would be frame two. So this foot could be moving forward. So they just flip. Now let's see if we can find the other one. So the knee that is on the far side is taller. It's above, and it is the stand leg. So typically the stand leg, the weight bearing leg, the knee is higher. His pelvis, look at that. You can get the pelvis shift now. The angle of his pelvis is angled opposite to Bacchus. So Bacchus, the asus is high on the left and declines on the right. The opposite is true for the boy. Nice. All right, so hip to knee. The knee is going to be higher on this side, and then knee to ankle. Cool. A little indications of what we've seen on the right side from a Bacchus. You get the angle of the let's just go back up. Let's just go back up. We've got like the framework, which is kind of nice, but we don't have we have very little indication of the head and the face. And actually, this character has more characteristics that are visible. So we're gonna got the angle of these shoulders, come up from the neck, across. I just gotta erase some of my original oval. Whenever the construction lines get, you're too heavy or there's too many, you can do a perfect drawing on top of them and you'll never know because there's too many marks to be able to see anything. All right, so I got the bottom of the jaw transitioning into the chin, and then a little indication of this nose. Thank you, Busan. Nose, a little bit of angle at the brow, underneath the eyes, and then a little indication of the forehead. And that really pulls, I pulled this neck really kind of far back in relationship to the torso. And you can even tell in my sketch, in order to pull the weight of Bacchus back, he's got to put muscle and weight into the front leg, and then he's got to pull his own weight back. And that's why the arc is here in the first place, because he's moving his momentum backwards, hoping to either keep either balancing his like much stronger, much heavier boss, or even, pulling him, back from moving forward, kind of arresting him in his steps. So that's like the subtlety of this narrative. It's this moment that Bacchus is experiencing, seeing this beautiful woman, is kind of falling in love with her. But he's got, he's got drunken vision, and he's got these, this supporting cast, literally supporting cast. All right. So yeah, so that's good. So I got the brow ridge, the nose, the jaw. There's a little bit of a forehead, and then we do this headband. The headband, maybe like a little, maybe a turban, like a turban. And then there's hair that comes out of the bottom, both near the sideburns. Could be an ear. Hair coming out of the back. He didn't give us the back line of the neck. He just gave us like the back of the head and then the deltoid. And that's kind of a neat. It's kind of neat that he just does that. Like maybe I don't know what it is about why it works, but let's just try it. We won't indicate the back of the neck, but we will start to indicate the deltoid. The back of the deltoid into the triceps. We've got the front of the bis and the delts here. We've got a little vertical element kind of in the middle of the neck, because the left side is light and the front side is going to be toned. And then we've got the front of the sternum. And then we're really just doing the costal arch leading into this little round belly. Got the right arm, left arm. I didn't do the top of the turban. That's nice though. It gives it like the crown of the head. Just like we've got the crown of the little Scottish golf cap of Bacchus. Just for my own self, I'm going to put in the pectorals, the costal arch of the rib cage, and we can lead that into like a round, kind of like a round belly with a belly button. I know, I mean, you can use your X-ray vision and see through the, maybe I'll do that to get the edge of the rib cage into the love handles, and the love handles into the gluteus medius, and then maximus, and then that thigh is going to come down here. So that's my X-ray vision. What really is going to appear there is going to be the ellipse of the wine glass. I'm going to draw it large so you guys can see it. We're seeing the inside of the ellipse, and the neck curls in like really beautifully. And then the wine jug has a wider ellipse. So it's this form again, rounded, curving into a little cylindrical base. So it has 4 components. There's like the spout up here, which narrows into the shoulders, and then the body of the belly of where the wine barrel would be. There's some decorative moments on the side. Then you have the it's a kind of a cone. It's inverted, it's like wider and gets narrower at the bottom. That's going to be the base. And then you have the handles on both sides. So this is like a little bit more content. He's quietly indicating it, but the nice thing about this prop is that it conforms to the same lighting arrangement as all of Bacchus and all of the boy. So the right side will be toned throughout, the right side of each one of those forms. And if he was being super savvy, the inside left side of the opening, that would have been shaded. But he's really trying to make the wine carafe a light object, up against the shadow of the arm and the chest of the boy. It's pretty good. You're going to get the boy is supposedly going to be holding the bottom. He really goes easy on the arm here. Like when I say easy, meaning he's not really adding much detail. It's just shoulder to elbow, elbow to wrist, maybe there, and then the wrist holding the bottom of the hand. There's almost nothing to speak of, but he does intelligently give. Where the wrist gets narrow right before the hand begins, he gives us a little dark moment at the edge of the light part of the base. I love that little keyhole. Probably does the same thing at the elbow notch as well. Nice. The front of the arm is going to blend right into the front of the torso, and the belly will round out on this side. So the shadow side of the Winecraft is going to blend right into the shadow of the body. Line these up. Okay, so I really have to erase all the parts of the body that I used for my X-ray vision to show that it was there. So I'm seeing the illuminated top of the deltoid and a little bit of the top of the clavicle. It's kind of fun. And then we're going to get the shaded torso. I don't know if he's got like a shirt or skins, or that's hair, curly hair coming on that far side of the shoulder. Definitely some texture. I see this guy wearing more clothes than anybody else. Shaded belly. All right, so our Winecraft is tilted at an angle. So I'm going to get that lower left-hand lip of the mouth, and we'll call that mouth. We'll call that narrow neck, leading into the ellipse of the broad shoulders of the vessel, and those angle in and go below the hip bones. So that line's kind of full. And then we'll get the bottom. So we get the mouth and the neck, the shoulder and the belly, and then the base. We'll pull this arm, shoulder to elbow. The inside of the forearm seems to go right up against the vessel. We'll pull these hands under. Shadow side of the neck, shadow of the shoulder, shadow of the belly of the vessel, shadow on the base. Doing a good job. The shadow on the side in between the arm and the vessel, so then I can put the handles in. Little tone at the wrist, in between the wrist and the side of the vessel. And let's re-examine these legs. It looks like there's some little belt and this little floppy, yeah, that just like reminds me of skins. I think I'm imagining like a pelt, some kind of pelt that's like, wrapped around. I don't know why I've got that stuck in my head. But let's just re-examine these legs. So we got the upper part of the thigh that has some kind of some indication of some fabric cutting across. And then we'll go narrow into this knee block. So like the back of the thigh, and then the tendon that's at the back of right at the back of the, you flex the back of your knees, you can kind of feel those two tendons at the very back behind the back of the knee block. So you get the tendon of the knee in the back, and then we'll have the front of the kneecap here. And I'm still feeling confident with the from knee to ankle. So there we go. We can shade the front of the belly, front of the upper thigh, the transition, shade the bottom part of the knee block. So here's where the big major difference I think happens in my drawing compared to his drawing, and it's how close these his legs are together. So I shot my leg out a little bit too far perhaps. So I'm just going to go back to where the legs split, and I'm committed to his left side leg, technically his right leg, the non-flexed leg. I'm committed to that. So then I'm going to do the right leg in relationship to that. So I can kind of see the back of the thigh, back of the knee block. So here now is the new front of my leg. There's the new back of the calf leading into that tendon of the Achilles heel into the ankle. And then I'll use a triangle again because that seemed to be an acceptable stand-in where he did not really give us a foot. Shade this whole back leg to put it back and to make it a little ambiguous. And I'll erase the old leg. I'm going to try and push his arm, that his elbow came forward, so I need to push that back by shading it. I had to shade the front of his face. And now I can wonder if I wonder what this little texture mark is. Can't really tell. Maybe it's a cast shadow. Bacchus doesn't have a real cast shadow over here from his face onto his shoulder, but maybe that would be good. Wow. I'm just looking at the background here, and I think there's there's like a sea. I think there's a little ocean, not ocean, but like shoreline. That looks like this looks like it's water. It would make sense. I mean, whenever there's these little, moments at the edge of pictures, it's very conventional for artists to try to create that illusion of deep space, like far depth. So he's got the contact point where the foot's touching the ground. Then there's the distance from our figures to the shoreline, which is this little tone area. Then the shore leads across a body of water to looks like there's a little indication of an island. And then you wrap around that island to far water, and then a land that's on the far side. So with this little, almost nothing area of the picture, just between the edge of the boy and the edge of the picture, he gives you a miniature landscape that goes like a mile. You know what I mean? He just takes advantage of that area. I'm not going to miss out. Got FOMO. I got Poussin FOMO.
What's that?
Fear of missing out.
Oh,
Like, it's the kids that always have to be at the party. They don't want to be there when something goes down. I live with a person who suffers from FOMO. I make sure that there's always something to do, though. Okay, cool. So that's a tree. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. She's got a little space created that she's kind of hanging out in, and there's a tree behind her. There's a tree behind Bacchus, which is further kind of supporting, his strength, his association. And then it's tied, one end is tied up to the other end. So what's going on between our two figures is a, probably fabric tied up against a tree. So it's, or no, I guess it's, if you look at this side, there's a tree and the fabric wrapped around the tree. So you're seeing, and I suspect that's probably what he's going for on this side as well. So if there's like treed branches, and then there's a moment where it's wrapped up, and then there's the tree behind it. So yeah, there's nothing that's not considered, that's not taken into account. Now I will have to, I like this. I like seeing it swoop up. The fabric rolls over really gently, committed lines. These are inconsequential. That's why he doesn't, mine are fine. Whatever I did, it might be a little bit too thin. I mean, it's okay. He's just acknowledging that there is space between, and he's gonna have to paint it. You have to paint everything. So when you're making a composition, there's not any single iota, square millimeter of a canvas that is not taken into account. And this is a planning phase. So there's no reason to not see what's happening between those two.
So that's fabric, not a tree behind him?
I think it's a tree in between their bodies, and then above the elbows, I think it's fabric. And I'm only modeling that off of what's happening on the other side. And you would think that he would be consistent.
I'm thinking that it's a tent, it's a fabric that's stretched between two trees, creating a tent going backwards.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's billowing over to the other side and above between them and back down. I see it. Okay.
And that's, it's a little changing area. It's a little private scene, especially if there's like, water and ships and people maybe over there. So
Yeah. So it's not a tunicky thing. It's actually a tent, more like, okay.
Yes. Sorry, I didn't make that.
Yeah.
It's almost like a stage set.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, it is. And it's, when you have stories that turn into plays, and then, plays that take place on stage, and then you have artists, representing, they all, they're all working together. Very much is a very theatrical style of arranging figures. I think that's intentional. I think that's how his his figurative compositions are coordinated like that. Whereas, where there's very much gravity, there's a ground plane, there's a, the dynamic that exists between the figures that reads well, and then there's a background. Whereas like Rubens, there's gravity, there's, it has all of the elements that are utilized in the stage, versus, like a Marvel movie, there's like movie kind of cinematic of painting, and then there's like, a traditional stage set.
I'm wondering if this is based on a play by an ancient playwright.
I think it is. I mean, I think that there is that story. I mean, I think it's in Metamorphoses. Maybe I'll run. Let's do the fawn, and then maybe I'll run. Actually, maybe I'll run down now, and then we can think about the fawn. I think we'll have time to finish out this trio. All right, let me see if I can find this.
Ran out of space.
There's the birth of Adonis. That was one of the compositions we almost did. I'm gonna probably have to Google it. So funny when you don't realize that you can just Google everything. You're like, I have to
Yeah.
look. It's like, no, you don't. Especially like the stuff that's public domain. Wow. Huh. Yeah, and I didn't realize that was Titian did a version of this, which is one of my favorite paintings of all time, actually. This is are you familiar with this Titian painting?
No,
It's
that's great.
it's fantastic, and it's so funny because Bacchus isn't holding on to anything. Like he's not standing on anything. He's just like flying over the. I don't know.
It's a rave.
And there's this little constellation in the sky, which is always, that one always freaked me out because it's not like a real constellation, and then it looks like UFOs.
Yeah.
It looks like a crown.
There she is. And there's the little fawn. There's the little fawn. There's the musicians. There's the tambourine woman. We haven't gotten to that side, but the woman's definitely playing tambourines on the right side now that I see this. And that is Laocoon. I don't know why Laocoon is in that picture.
Who's he?
Then look at this guy. This guy on the right. Maybe that's what this guy's wearing, like some like skin,
Wow.
sheepskin.
Yeah, with grape leaves or something.
Yeah, exactly. Those little
Is
grape
is
leaves.
Bacchus in this painting?
Yeah. This is Bacchus right here.
Oh,
One more.
that is not what I
Oh
would
my.
expect Bacchus to look like.
No, nor would I.
Oh, look at his junk hanging out. God, that's hilarious.
What is this painting called? I mean, what is the topic?
So I mean, I just Googled Bacchus discovering Ariadne.
Ariadne. Oh, I see.
So this is his Bacchanal, and he's just like, this is the Bacchanal.
Yeah.
And it's like his entourage. I mean, he's got these led by these two leopards,
Oh my gosh.
and I'm sure this dog is kind of defending this woman.
And then there's a sacrifice, so they killed something there.
Look at the there's our
Oh, the urn.
chalice.
Is that what you thought the sacrifice was? The
No.
urn?
To the right of that is a head, just by the dog. Go down to the dog.
There's a goat head.
There.
Ah,
Might be a deer. Might be a deer.
Oh,
That
Yeah.
head,
like a boar.
and then there's the leg.
Ooh.
oh.
He's carrying
Ooh.
the leg.
And why exactly is this your favorite painting?
It's not. I mean, it's not one. I mean, well, I love the Laocoon. I just love Titian. This is
Okay.
one of and look at that. I mean, look at that. You know, the tambourine woman.
Yeah,
Delightful. And
so colorful.
he's really playful. This fawn is like really famous.
Mm.
And then where? I don't see Cupid anywhere in this one. But then look at there's the fat drunkard on a mule
Mm.
Oh, yeah.
that passed out.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
Bacchus
it's just like a
seems to
super-
represent,
Super playful picture, and I mean the colors. And I did a copy of it. So I love the sky. I love the green trees. I mean, it's so vibrant. I wonder if Poussin. Let me see if I can. If that's the other thing, I don't know if this ever became an actual painting. By Poussin, that is. All right, so. This is about the painting, not about the story. They did a ballet about this. There's a poem. Oh, this one looks very different. So after Theseus escaped from the Minotaur's labyrinth, Ariadne was abandoned on the island of Naxos. She was discovered by Bacchus, the god of wine, who fell in love with her, which is why Cupid appears in this drawing. That's all I got from. That's the description of this. This is in the Royal Collection Trust. I don't know what that is. This is from 1634 to 1636.
When was the Titian? What are the dates for that?
And that's in, I think that's in the museum. That can't be right. I was going to say, it looks like it might be in Boston, but it's in the National Gallery in London. That is, the Titian is from 1522.
Huh.
What did I say this one was? 1640?
Yeah.
It was 100 years later. It doesn't look as though it's a painting. I spell Poussin.
Poussin.
Thank you. Yes.
oh,
Okay, so it was turned into a painting. But it changed, the name was kind of changed to Bacchanalia, and this composition is way more, this way more involved. I saved it to my photos, and I'll show you. So it's everybody. Let's see if we can see some of our favorite friends though. All right, so this is Poussin's painting of the same scene.
Wow.
Now,
Same
I'm
kind of colors. It's
I'm like
interesting.
totally aware now. It's almost like he had the original vision in the piece that we're sketching, and then he saw Titian's, and
Yeah.
then it's completely. I mean, look at the Bacchus. I mean, he is completely different, and now a version of Titian. Um,
The colors too are sort of the same kind of
the
color.
hair, the headdress, the nature of the figure, the flowing, the moving, red drape. This one does include Cupid, so Cupid's up here. There's other cherubs. This, I wonder if this is a. That kind of looks like. This guy actually looks more like the Bacchus that we just drew, in terms of that vertical. What's going on here? Is this is, zoom back out. That's the fabric, I think. It's not a very high resolution image, I apologize.
It's almost like a photo. It looks like, just because there's so much activity in it. And it's like,
Yeah.
why at that moment did he capture that? It's interesting.
Yeah, like the way it's clustered.
Yeah.
So there, this is a cluster arrangement. This is a cluster. These are the two main figures. That's the narrative.
Mhm.
And then you've got these dancing people on the left. We've got these are the musicians on the right. So you have the horn player, the tambourine player. And then these two are, being
Mhm.
by that man.
Where's the fawn?
Together. He's down here.
Oh. Oh, there he is.
Fawn legs and the
Yeah.
goat.
Wow.
And then here's a cherub drinking out of these wine carafes. There's the sacrifice here. Or soon to be sacrifice, I guess.
Phew.
Blue sky on the right, forest on the blue sky on the left, forest on the right, similar to the Titian. It's actually a little disappointing. I think this is too much. This is an interesting S curve that runs through the whole picture. Like I do like that flow, and then that divides the picture into that's like kind of the flow of the movement, and then there's these two figures down here, and then these two clusters down here. So that's how the design. Oh, there's Cupid flying.
Oh.
It actually officially has the arrows. So that must just be a little. Could be two stages of Cupid.
He definitely captures mayhem in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's less of a celebration. It doesn't feel, it feels way chaotic. Versus here, at least there's like he's like leading this parade of people that are kind of off screen. The mayhem is happening. There's a suggestion of it, like that there's a whole caravan.
But there's more order.
Yeah, and definitely more. The interesting dominant diagonal here. Maybe that's maybe a major S curve that runs through the composition, dividing, her realm from his realm. It's a lot. It's a little much, as they say. Oh, nice little break.
Did they paint these as morality tales, or they were just kind of trying to capture these ancient myths? I mean, were they supposed to make some kind of statement about?
I don't know. I think honestly, I think it was like you probably put them in a party room. It was probably to spice,
Uh-huh.
You put like in a prayerful room, you put certain decor in a
Right.
in a concert hall or in a banquet hall. You put a different
Uh-huh. Huh.
I don't think it was necessarily a moral statement. I mean, I think they're, I think everyone can, relate to these types of,
Well,
they're,
sure.
they're kind of universal human experiences. But, and then the ancients dealt with them in a different way than, the consciousness, evolves and, new ideas come forth, and it's interesting to track it. All right, so the more I'm looking at the fawn, the more activity there really is. He's got eyes, nose, and like a little chin, peeking out from underneath the clothed arm of Bacchus. So we got this oval here. Then his arm is raised, so we got shoulder, so shoulder to elbow, then elbow to wrist, and then the wrist of the hand. He's holding up the hand and the carafe of. Let me drop that down a little bit so you can see it. And then he's got a little. I guess it was probably a little armpit into the angle of the rib cage. Now, the ambiguous area is this cloth that goes from, kind of the upper part of the ribs, almost like a skirt that's being like lifted up, because you can actually see the, Bacchus's member, or I mean, the fawn's member here, translating, probably furry, translating into these goat legs. So it goes hip to knee, and then the knee, the knee is way high in goats. Then it goes from knee to ankle. And the ankle is really high, and then the ankle goes from ankle down to the ball of the foot, and then the ball of the foot turns into one fused finger, which is the hoof. And that's the, so we're not drawing, actual, human legs. I mean, we're drawing, and all mammals have the same kind of bone structure. So it's a chimera, essentially. I mean, so you're starting from the rib cage and hips of a human, and then using the fabric to show, to like cloud or hide this kind of like awkward transition, where how would that even work? So he hides that fabric, and then we'll just do the same thing on the other side. So hip to knee. Knees are really hard to find on the backs of on animals, horses and things, because they're so buried, and the thighs are so big, and they're just not like humans. So it's like their knees are on animals are a little bit different, but it still goes from hip to knee, much shorter, much stronger. Then knee to ankle, and then ankle to the ball of the foot, which is basically the ball of the toe, and then the fused finger, which is the hoof. So we can, the whole thing about the whole point of the fawn even existing in this composition is to create a dark background for Bacchus. And so you can hide, you can refine the silhouetted edge of our god here by toning the fawn. And we haven't really looked much at the background. You see the fawn's head throws a shadow onto the shoulder as well. So we'll do this little chin, almost like a little devil chin. These are little demonic creatures. I think that's what the closest thing that we have to refer to them as. So I get eyes, nose, mouth, and I just shade that down, pushing him away. At first, I don't even think I noticed, the fawn on the, next to him. And it only came to me after I started drawing.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was a bush at first.
What's that?
I thought it was a bush or a tree or something at
Yeah.
first.
Yeah, and that's where they kind of hide. He's like kind of hiding in the shadows there,
Yeah.
which I think is of its nature.
Sure.
And it may have been, I'm looking, let me just move my drawing for a second so we can see it, but he may have been an afterthought, because you can see the, some of the pillows are here, and then there's another one that comes off and comes in front of the fawn, but then he needed to, so it might be, this guy might be, I can't tell, I think he's meant to be in front, but then it was already drawn on there, so. It definitely the fawn came after the pillow. Now I'm seeing this in both of the others. Bacchus came from the right and entered in, and Ariadne was on the left, and this is the reverso, the reverse of it. I think this is truer to what his interpretation and his reading of it was, and then he was kind of like probably giving the people what they wanted with the bacchanal. Or it could be a completely different vibe. I'll look for other sketches that might match. Speaking of which,
Can we finish this next week?
yeah, I would love to finish the rest of them.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a little bit of a tough read, but you guys can do it. We won't sketch this, but you got to be able to decode. Here's our Bacchus. Can you see him in there?
Yeah.
This dominant vertical. You can see his familiar head, the elbow, the wrist in the same position. Our girls have moved over to the left. So he may have actually traced it. This paper may have been Cupid's moved. Oh, who's over here? We got some dancing. We got dancing figures on that side. This guy's riding. It's like a.
What is this? Is this just a sketch from him?
This is the same. This is the sketch on the other side. This is the opposite.
Oh, okay.
But it's the same scene.
Mm-hmm.
But the distance is closer, I guess. And then there's all this other activity happening back here. The wine bearer has been removed and replaced by these are probably dancing graces back here, not the graces, but dancing figures. And then Cupid's over here now. And it does look like there's still the tent situation. Anyway,
Cool.
keep digging. I think it's worth it. We'll put this in. We have a little show, like a little show and tell.
Sure.
If I stop the share. Lost Rainy. All right, let me stop the share.
Okay.
Steph, you want to go first? I have you.
You
Wow.
see?
Cool. Yeah, a little to your. Yeah, that looks great.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that is nice. Let me pin you real quick. I'm not quite done. Okay. Can you back it up a little bit? There you go. Nice. All right, cool. Very, very easy addition would just throw in some horizontal ground plane applications, and they just won't quite float as much. Annie, you want to show yours?
I really could not see the fawn, so I didn't attempt it. But
okay. Yeah, I mean, we just did that in the last 10 minutes. That's great. Yeah,
Nice.
the weight
Oh, wow.
the wine bearer is fantastic.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Yeah, I think we might have peaked on that one. Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, can you show it for one more time?
Oh.
I have it full screen now. Yeah. So interesting with that with the stage on I like that you have them on the same plane, like the exact same ground plane. That really works rather than he was a little confused, and that is stronger.
Was that not the original?
I don't know. I mean, he left it open, really open-ended. Okay, Adele, I'm gonna pin you.
Oh, wow. That's fabulous.
Nice.
Yeah, there's a really nice balance between the darkness of the tone and the darkness of the line. They complement each other, nicely. I think you went darker than he did, which would make more sense. Great. I like your where you have you intentionally kind of made lost and found, where I mean with the jar, with the wine vessel, and the silhouettes. I think it's nice to not have a full-blown silhouette all the way around. And I think I may even have too many silhouettes on mine. I'm glad you moved on to some of the other placement of the figures. All right,
Yeah, I
sweet.
wanted to see the whole composition start to take shape. So
Yeah.
yeah, looking forward to continuing this next week.
Okay, good. I'm glad. And you're able, and you guys, if you feel inclined to do that, please do. I'm just kind of limited by this Zoom situation, with the screen. I would probably normally do that. Grace, can I see yours?
Yeah.
Gosh, my candle is burned down completely. I can't wait to watch that in the video. Wow.
I don't know if you can
Close.
see. Can you
If
see
you can lift
anything?
that up just a
Your
little,
clouds are incredible.
That's beautiful.
It really
yeah,
is.
lovely.
Yeah, you're working the right size. It feels like the right size, and
It's tiny. It's like this.
everything seems to be radiating out too. Like your background is integrating with the figures really nicely. It seems, you know what I mean? Like when I see it, that's my sense. Yeah. Then next week should be good. I didn't know how these were going to go. I mean, maybe, and who knows how long we can do the Poussin, but the landscape is a real treat too. All right, Stace, can we see yours? Were you doing it?
I was only able to do a little bit, so
Oh, it's good.
I'm not sure
That's
what you can. Sorry.
I already forgot about the barbecue skewers. Those look so cool, Stace.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
So that's nice.
That's
It looks like a commercial for barbecue, you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks, Stephanie.
It could be like a logo for a food truck. I can see that on the side of.
Wow, thank you.
All right, y'all.
Trevor, I don't know if everyone has shown because I just got back on, but once everyone has, may I see yours again?
And yeah, and I would love if you guys could send me if you could text me or email me the images. I'd love to see them that way too.
All right. Did you want to see it again, Stacy, or do you want
Yes, I would love to.
All right. Here's
Thank you so much, Trevor.
You're so
Oh,
welcome.
wow.
See you next
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, ciao.
there you go.
Whoop, back up, Stephanie.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna send it too, so
That's beautiful. Thank
Thank
you.
thank you.
I follow a thing called a Jerry of the Day, and it's basically people that are kind of ridiculous on the ski mountains. If they do a jump and wipe out, or if they're wearing fun but their whole business model is that people have to send them pictures so that they can keep, sending funny skiing photos. And their like mantra is like, just send it, like just send the photo, because that's the business model that people send them funny pictures, and it's funny to get on there. I almost did one anyway. So yeah, just send it in the spirit of Jerry of the Day.
Okay. Great. Thanks,
Okay.
everybody.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
week, all.
See you soon.